Imagine a young girl who is homeless, has no resources, and has the odds stacked against her. Someone who, in the eyes of many, was already defeated before she even started. But what would you do if I told you that this same young woman, with nothing more than her determination and a hidden skill, managed to turn the game around and become one of the biggest CEOs in the world of technology? Do you think it's impossible? Because this story is not only real, it proves that the biggest twists happen when we least expect it. And the most interesting thing, she did this without following the traditional path that many preach. While many believe that success is only achieved with a privileged education or with luck on your side, this young woman defied all expectations and showed that, with perseverance, anyone can create their own destiny. But don't think it was easy. The challenges she faced, from financial problems to fighting for her sister's life, are things that would make the average person give up. And still she persisted. If you've ever wondered if it's possible to turn difficulties into opportunities, this story will show you that success is a matter of vision and action. Get ready to be inspired and learn how true overcoming happens in the most adverse situations. If this story has already made you think about the power of determination and overcoming, imagine what else you can learn by following our channel. Sign up now and turn on notifications so you don't miss any valuable lessons that can transform the way you see success. This journey is just beginning, and you don't want to miss out. It was an ordinary day, but the tension-filled atmosphere suggested something was about to change forever. Since their father passed away, things have never been the same. The mother, once strong and confident, now struggled to keep up appearances, but her fragility showed in every gesture. The weight of responsibility crushed his shoulders, and the absence of a father figure made the burden seem unbearable. Bethany, the protagonist, saw her mother's despair, but felt that, no matter how hard she tried, nothing could alleviate that pain. It was as if a hole had been dug into their lives, and they were slowly being swallowed by it. The bills were starting to pile up, the late rent, the outstanding debts, and to make matters worse, the younger sister's health was only getting worse. It was a situation of constant overcoming, where each day brought a new challenge and a new battle to be faced. And the mother? The mother no longer knew where to run. There was no more strength, no hope. Tears that were once hidden now flowed freely, a painful reminder that everything was falling apart. Life, which before seemed difficult, now became a real drama. With her father gone, Bethany realized that she needed to be strong, even if everything around her indicated otherwise. She knew her mother couldn't bear it all alone. Life waited for no one, and time ran relentlessly. Sleepless nights became a constant, as Bethany tried to understand how to reverse the situation. Everything seemed like an endless nightmare. However, the need to care for her increasingly weak sister gave her a kind of hidden strength, a spark of hope. Bethany's altruism was her greatest motivation, but even that seemed insufficient in the face of so many obstacles. The sister's health required immediate attention, and the doctors did not bring good news. Without proper treatment, the worst was inevitable. But how can you afford an expensive surgery when you barely have money to eat? Desperation only grew, and options seemed to run out. Each door that closed pushed Bethany closer to the edge of the abyss. But she wasn't ready to give up yet. There was something inside her that screamed for a turnaround. She knew that somehow she had to find a solution. Looking around, Bethany saw her mother sinking deeper and deeper into a state of apathy, and it scared her to her core. What would happen if your mother gave up too? They needed to find a way out, but the path was covered in thorns. Still, Bethany didn't let the fear completely consume her. There was a latent strength, an inspiration that emerged in the darkest moments. She knew that, no matter how difficult it was, there was still a chance, however small, to overcome it all. The house, which was once a haven of comfort, was now just a reminder of everything they had lost. The silence that echoed through the corridors was disturbing, almost deafening. The once talkative mother now barely uttered a word. Everything was falling apart around them. But Bethany, with her characteristic humility, believed things could change. She didn't know how, but she felt like this wasn't the end of the line. With a sinking heart, Bethany began searching for anything that could help. She spent hours in front of the computer, trying to understand how she could earn some extra money. Without experience, without great skills, the task seemed impossible. But desperation had a strange way of bringing the most unlikely ideas to the surface. And it was in this moment of anguish that Bethany found the first spark of hope. She knew she had an ability, something that could be her salvation. Bethany's skill with electronics was something she had never given much thought to. But now, in that moment of need, she realized that this could be the key to a possible way out. She started repairing small appliances, simple things that soon started to attract attention. Her neighbors, seeing what she was doing, began asking for help. And so, little by little, Bethany began to build a small reputation. She didn't know it yet, but that would be the first step towards the great turnaround in her life. Deep down, Bethany still had no idea where this would all take her. The fear of failing was great, but the need to overcome challenges was even greater. Each repair carried out brought a small victory, and even if it was something simple, it made her believe that somehow things could improve. Hope, even if timid, was beginning to be reborn. The clock seemed to tick faster than ever, and the accumulated bills made the situation unsustainable. The eviction notice arrived like a sharp blow to the stomach. The cold words on the paper were clear. If the rent wasn't paid soon, they would lose the only thing they had left, their home. With each passing day, the pressure increased, and Bethany found herself facing a challenge that was seemingly impossible to overcome. She knew that her mother no longer had the strength to deal with the situation, and it was up to her to find a solution. But how? With so many problems at once, hope seemed to dissipate. In addition to rent, there was another ghost hanging over them: hospital bills. The sister's health was deteriorating rapidly, and the doctors were clear. Without surgery, the future was bleak. The treatment was expensive, very expensive, and every call from the hospital was a painful reminder of the brutal reality they faced. How to pay for something they could barely imagine having. The pain of seeing her sister suffering was mixed with the despair of knowing that time was running out. Overcoming was necessary, but how to find a way out? It was like being at a dead end, with the weight of the world on your shoulders. Each morning, Bethany woke up feeling like she was racing against time, without a clear plan. The rent, the bills, her sister's health, all of this created an avalanche of problems that seemed impossible to contain. Her mother, increasingly emotionally weakened, looked at Bethany with a mixture of sadness and helplessness. It was a constant battle, and the only thing Bethany had left was her resilience. Without a stable job and few options, Bethany began exploring alternatives. She knew she needed to find a way to make money quickly, but nothing seemed viable. The job market was unforgiving, and every door she knocked on closed almost immediately. Still, she didn't give up. She couldn't. With her sister's situation getting worse every day, the need to act became more urgent. Her life was a continuous drama, and the only thing that kept her going was the need to save her sister. She spent sleepless nights, looking for ways to earn some kind of income. He tried to sell some belongings, but it barely made a difference. Desperation led her to think about all possibilities, even the most extreme ones. However, one thing was clear. Humility always accompanied her, even in the darkest moments. She never let pride get in the way of asking for help, even when it seemed like no one was willing to reach out. It was on one of these nights, while searching the internet for solutions, that an idea began to emerge. Bethany had a skill, something that few noticed, but that could be the key to getting out of that desperate situation. His ability to fix things, especially electronics, could be explored differently. Repairing small appliances, which had previously been just an occasional hobby, now seemed like a possible solution. But would that be enough to pay the rent and save his sister? Without many options, Bethany decided to go with the idea. He started offering his repair services to neighbors, fixing phones, laptops, and anything that was broken. At first it was a modest income, but it was something. Every small payment he received represented another step towards his goal. However, the pressure continued, and she knew that that initial effort was still far from solving all the problems. Time was running out, and even with the small earnings, the rent was still not paid. The house owner's calls became more frequent and more threatening. Bethany felt the weight of responsibility increasing every day. The financial situation was on the verge of collapse, and her sister's health worsened with each visit to the hospital. It was a race against the clock, and every second seemed to push her deeper into the abyss of despair. Still, something inside her kept her from giving up. With each repair carried out, with each satisfied customer, Bethany felt a small spark of hope. I knew that, somehow, I needed to transform that small income into something bigger. Altruism continued to be his guide, as everything he did was to save his sister and, in addition, his family. But how to transform that spark of hope into a flame that could light the way? It was then that the opportunity arose. One customer commented that he knew a used phone supplier who needed someone to repair them. It seemed like a sign. Bethany knew that, as risky as it was, this could be the turnaround she so desperately needed. But what would happen next? Could she turn that opportunity into something big? Or would it be another door that would close? What started as an underrated skill soon became Bethany's only hope. Since she was little, she had a natural curiosity about how things worked. When something broke at home, instead of throwing it away, she insisted on trying to fix it. This was something his father always encouraged, saying that sometimes the secret was learning to deal with failures. And now, in the midst of chaos, this curiosity was his greatest ally. The selflessness of wanting to help everyone around her made her realize that, with a little knowledge, she could offer something valuable. Fix what was broken, both literally and figuratively. With her hands steady and her eyes focused, Bethany dedicated herself to each repair as if it were her only chance to escape the storm that surrounded her. She didn't have fancy tools, just the basics and her will to overcome challenges. Each device she managed to fix was a small victory, but also a reminder that the solution to her problems could be right there, in her own hands. People began to notice his ability, and, little by little, more orders came in. Word of mouth spread, and his reputation as someone who could solve technical problems grew. Soon, his small makeshift repair room was filling up with broken phones, damaged laptops, and electronics people thought were lost. For Bethany, each of these devices was a new opportunity to learn and grow. She was beginning to understand that even though she was fixing physical things, something deeper was happening. Each reconnected thread, each adjusted piece was a metaphor for her own life. Broken, but with the potential to be repaired. This thought was his daily inspiration. What Bethany may not have realized at that moment was that, by repairing these objects, she was also restoring her own self-esteem. What started as a simple attempt to earn some money soon turned into a passion for solving problems. More than that, it was a way to control something in your life. When everything around you seemed to be falling apart, fixing a phone was, in a way, fixing a part of herself, overcoming obstacles with patience and determination. The drama of her personal life still surrounded her, but now she had something she could control, something that made her feel useful. Clients, impressed by Bethany's skills, began recommending her services. The demand grew and, along with it, the respect of the people around him. Even so, she never let momentary success go to her head. His humility was non-negotiable. She knew that, despite the small gains, she was still a long way from solving all the problems. However, each satisfied customer was a step closer to the security she sought. Still, the shadow of medical bills and outstanding rent hung over her. Technology was his tool, but the real fuel behind his work was his love for his family. The need to save her sister drove her to continue, even on the longest and loneliest nights. With each device repaired, Bethany felt like she was one step closer to winning the battle against time. And, in a way, technology was also his ally in this race. After all, if she could fix something that everyone considered lost, who knows, maybe she could find a way to reverse her own fortunes. But the truth is that the road to success is rarely linear. No matter how much Bethany dedicated herself, problems continued to arise. Not all devices were easy to fix, and some technical challenges made her question her own abilities. In these times of uncertainty, she remembered her father's words, "Not everything that is broken needs to be thrown away." It was a reminder that overcoming required patience and, above all, persistence. And Bethany had it in spades. The ability to repair electronics proved more valuable than she could have imagined. Customers began to bring not just common devices, but more complex equipment, challenging her skills and leading Bethany to seek new knowledge. She spent hours researching tutorials online, learning new repair techniques and honing her skills. Each new discovery was a small victory, and each device repaired was confirmation that she was on the right path. Over time, Bethany realized that she wasn't just fixing appliances. She was building a new reputation for herself. She was no longer the poor girl, sunk in debt and problems. Now, she was recognized for her skill, for the quality of the work she did, and more than that, for her humility and determination. Even so, the pressure of saving her sister and paying the bills was still immense. She knew she needed something more, something that could turn her talent into a real opportunity. And then, when I least expected it, a chance came that could change everything. A regular client, impressed with Bethany's work, suggested that she know someone in the technology industry who might be interested in her services. The idea of expanding your horizons seemed distant, almost impossible. But Bethany, already used to comebacks, knew she couldn't let this opportunity pass. Could this be the turn of events she had been waiting for? The next step could take her down a path she never imagined. It all started with a simple conversation, but that suggestion completely changed the course of Bethany's life. A customer casually mentioned that he knew someone who sold used cell phones and that he needed a good technician to repair them. That turned on a light in Bethany's mind. Until then, she saw repairing devices as a way of survival, a way to pay the bills and save her sister. But what if it was more than that? What if it was an opportunity to turn what she knew into a real business? That idea seemed absurd at first, but Bethany was used to overcoming challenges that seemed impossible. When scheduling the first meeting with the supplier, Bethany felt nervous taking over. She knew this was her chance for a comeback, but she also knew it was a risk. The man she met was pragmatic, tough in negotiations, but he saw something in her. Maybe it was the humility with which Bethany presented herself, or maybe it was the determination in her eyes. The fact is that he offered her an opportunity to repair a large number of cell phones that he had in stock, and, if she could get them working again, she could sell them for a good profit. It was the chance Bethany had been waiting for, but the challenge seemed immense. With a new perspective, Bethany began working on the project. His room, previously full of random devices, was now filled with an impressive number of broken cell phones, waiting to be restored. Each represented a new chance to prove your worth. But the challenge was not just technical. Bethany knew that for her business to succeed, she would need to manage everything with precision. Time was short, and each mistake could be very costly. Still, she was determined to make it work. Overcoming was inevitable, and she wasn't going to give up now. As she worked, Bethany began to realize that there was more to this project than just profit. Fixing those cell phones meant she was turning something useless into something valuable, and that inspired her deeply. Each device that came back to life was like a small miracle, and it wasn't just about money. That work made her feel like she was doing something bigger. The altruism that always guided her was present there. She saw every repair as an opportunity to help, not just herself, but others as well. After all, how many people could benefit from a repaired and affordable cell phone? However, as with any great journey, obstacles soon appeared. The supplier, while impressed with Bethany's progress, was demanding. He wanted quick results, and every mistake she made was followed by harsh criticism. At times, Bethany felt like she was about to fail, but it was amid this criticism that she found her strength. Each harsh word reminded her that the path to success would not be easy, but she had already overcome so much by then. The turnaround was within her reach, and she wasn't going to back down now. Over time, Bethany began to gain confidence in her business skills. It was no longer just about fixing appliances. She was learning to negotiate, deal with suppliers, manage her time, and plan her next steps. Little by little, she began to see that this project was not just a temporary solution to her financial problems. It was the beginning of something bigger, something that could completely change your life and the life of your family. It was the turnaround she had been waiting for. But the clock was still ticking, and her sister still needed urgent surgery. Bethany knew time was not on her side. With each passing day, her sister's health worsened, and the hospital bill only increased. Even with the project's growing success, there was still not enough money to pay for the surgery. It was a race against time, and she knew she needed to close a big deal quickly if she wanted to save her sister. The opportunity was there, but it would take more than technical skill to turn that chance into a real solution. She needed to negotiate, and negotiate well. But how to do this when the pressure was so great? Amid this pressure, a new proposal emerged. A businessman who had heard about Bethany's work approached her, interested in investing in the project. He believed that what she was doing had great potential for growth. The proposal was tempting, but it also brought new challenges. Bethany would have to share the profits, give up some control of the business, something she wasn't sure she was ready to do. However, the offer was irrefutable. With the investment, she could expand the business and, more importantly, save her sister. But the decision would not be easy. On the one hand, Bethany saw the proposal as a way to guarantee that her sister would have the surgery she so needed. On the other hand, she knew she was about to give up something she had built with so much effort. It was a dilemma that consumed her, and the nights became sleepless again. The turnaround was within his reach, but the price to be paid seemed too high. In the midst of this indecision, she knew that time was running out. The decision needed to be made, and quickly. Her mind was conflicted, but something inside her told her she was close to something big. Ultimately, Bethany made the decision. He accepted the investment, but on his own terms. She wasn't willing to give up everything, but she knew she needed help to grow. It was a bold but necessary step. And so, with the partnership signed, Bethany saw her business transform. What was once a one-room operation was now beginning to scale. Money started coming in, and the hope of saving his sister became real. But the road was still long, and new challenges would certainly arise. Every second felt like an eternity as Bethany tried to balance the growth of her business with the desperate need to save her sister. Each day, the sister's health visibly worsened, and the doctors were clear. Without surgery, time was running out. Bethany knew that no matter how successful she was with cell phone repair, it still wasn't enough to cover all the costs. The weight of every decision she made felt overwhelming. It was like racing against an invisible clock that never stopped, and every minute lost was one more step towards imminent tragedy. Despair began to hit harder when the hospital sent a notice that the sister could only stay a few more days without payment. It was devastating news. What else could Bethany do? The money that was coming in from the repaired cell phones wasn't enough, and time seemed to be running faster than ever. Every time she looked at her sister, lying in the hospital bed, a mixture of fear and guilt invaded her. She knew she needed to do something. But what? The feeling of helplessness was suffocating. It was in this moment of deep despair that Bethany realized she needed a bolder plan. She could no longer be content with small repairs and local businesses. I needed to think bigger, act with more ambition. And that's how she decided to look for bigger partners, investors willing to bet on the idea she was developing. Altruism continued to guide his actions, but now there was an even greater urgency. Her sister couldn't wait, and Bethany knew that, to save her, she would need to take risks that she had previously avoided. While negotiating with potential investors, Bethany was fighting against time. Every meeting, every conversation was a race against the clock, as the sister's health deteriorated day by day. The nights were even longer, full of worries and strategies. She spent hours thinking about how she could close a big contract that would guarantee the money for the surgery. The weight of responsibility crushed her, but she knew she couldn't stop. Overcoming was already part of her essence, but now she needed something more. She needed a miracle. In the midst of this frantic race, Bethany began to stand out not only for her technical ability, but also for her unwavering determination. People began to see in her someone who not only fixed cell phones, but who was also willing to do the impossible to save her family. Each meeting was an opportunity to show that despite her circumstances, she had what it took to succeed. But time remained relentless, and the sense of urgency never disappeared. The news from the hospital was not encouraging. Doctors told Bethany her sister had just weeks to live unless surgery was done immediately. This information fell like a bomb. The drama of the situation intensified every day, and Bethany found herself faced with an impossible decision: accept a risky investment and try to speed up the fundraising process or continue fighting alone, with the risk of not being able to make it in time. What was most important at that moment? The success of your business or your sister's life? The answer seemed obvious, but the execution was incredibly difficult. Finally, an opportunity arose that could change everything. A major investor in the technology sector, known for supporting innovative startups, arranged a meeting with Bethany. This was his chance to secure the money needed for the surgery and, at the same time, take his business to the next level. The meeting would be his last move. As she prepared for the meeting, Bethany felt a mix of hope and dread. I knew everything depended on that moment. It was an imminent turnaround. But would it be enough to win the race against time? During the meeting, Bethany laid out her plan with clarity and passion. He explained how his idea of repairing and reselling used cell phones was not only profitable, but also had a positive social impact. By recycling electronic components and making technology accessible to more people, it could create a sustainable and profitable chain. The investor listened intently, but Bethany knew he wanted more than words. He wanted proof that the business was viable, and at that moment the pressure was increasing. Time was running out, and her sister remained in the hospital, getting weaker and weaker. At the end of the meeting, the investor made a proposal. He would be willing to invest a large amount of money in the business, but only if Bethany could deliver a certain amount of repaired cell phones within a tight deadline. It was a risky bet, but Bethany had no choice. The proposal offered exactly what she needed: money for the surgery and a chance to expand her business. But the deadline was incredibly tight, and she knew it would be a race against time again. Overcoming would be necessary at all levels. Now, with the contract in hand, Bethany had less than a week to fulfill the investor's demand and secure the money for her sister's surgery. It was a desperate race, but Bethany was used to fighting the impossible. With her small trusted team, she began working day and night, without stopping. Every cell phone repaired was a step closer to saving her sister, but time was running out, and Bethany knew that, despite all her effort, the outcome was still uncertain. Could she complete the job in time and save her sister? The defining moment arrived, and Bethany was on the verge of a great feat. After exhausting days of incessant work, she managed to repair the number of cell phones required by the investor. What once seemed impossible was now within your reach. Bethany, tired but determined, handed over the cell phones ready, knowing that this was the moment that would decide everything. Success seemed closer than ever, but she knew that the path still had challenges. The drama of her personal life still hung over her, but the relief of having accomplished her mission made her believe that, finally, things would change. The investor, impressed by Bethany's efficiency, didn't take long to fulfill his part of the agreement. The money was released, and with it the long-awaited surgery for his sister was scheduled. For the first time in a long time, Bethany felt a surge of real hope. It wasn't just about the money or financial success. It was about saving her family, about exceeding all the expectations others placed on her. The humility that guided her from the beginning kept her grounded, even in the midst of the upheaval that was happening. She knew she was on the right path, but she also knew she couldn't stop there. With her sister's surgery secured and her business beginning to prosper, Bethany began to realize the impact of her choices. What started as a small attempt to repair appliances to earn some money quickly turned into a real company, with repeat customers and a solid reputation in the market. Altruism remained the essence of what she did. Every cell phone repair was a way to help not only herself, but also others who needed affordable technology. She knew she was building something bigger than she imagined, but success also brought new challenges. As her business grew, Bethany needed to learn how to delegate and manage a team. What was once a one-person operation now required a more structured organization. She hired technicians, trained new employees, and established processes to ensure that the cell phones she repaired maintained the same quality she had always valued. It was a new chapter in her journey, and although she was rising to new heights, the pressure of being a leader also began to set in. Even with her growing success, Bethany never lost sight of her original mission. Her sister's surgery was a success, and the feeling of relief it brought was indescribable. Finally, after so much time racing against the clock, Bethany was able to breathe and look to the future with hope. But the race was not over yet. The technology market was relentless, and she knew that to maintain the success she had achieved, she would need to continue innovating and expanding her horizons. There was no room for complacency, and Bethany was prepared to face the new challenges that would arise. One of the most memorable moments in her career was when Bethany realized that she was no longer the girl struggling to pay the rent. Now she was a successful entrepreneur, known for her resilience and ability to turn the impossible into reality. Her business prospered, and with it, the feeling that she had overcome what many thought was insurmountable. The turnaround in his life was not just a personal victory. He was an inspiration to everyone who knew his story. She proved that, with determination and humility, it is possible to completely change the course of life, even in the most adverse situations. Bethany's success has not gone unnoticed in the business world. Investors, technology companies, and even the media began to take an interest in his story. She began to be invited to lectures and interviews, where she shared her journey of overcoming and how she had transformed a small repair project into $1 million company. The inspiration Bethany gave to others was palpable. His story wasn't just about fixing cell phones. It was about fixing lives, including his own. Every word she spoke was a reminder that true success comes with persistence and humility. With fame and recognition, Bethany had to deal with a new reality. Now, she wasn't just a businesswoman. He was a public figure, an example of resilience for thousands of people. However, she never let success go to her head. The altruism that motivated her from the beginning remained her greatest strength. Bethany began investing part of her profits in social projects, offering technical training courses for young people in vulnerable situations, giving them the same chance she had to transform their lives through knowledge. But Bethany knew that success was only part of the journey. With each new challenge, she remembered where she started, fixing appliances in her small room, with nothing but determination and the will to succeed. Now, with a thriving business and her sister's health finally restored, she had the freedom to dream even bigger. But what would come next? Bethany knew that no matter how far she had come, there was still a world of opportunities and challenges waiting for her. The next chapter of his life was just beginning, and the ultimate turning point was yet to come. With her success consolidated, Bethany began to explore new areas of activity. Her technical knowledge was already vast, but now she had the resources to invest in innovation. Technology was changing quickly, and she wanted to be at the forefront of these transformations. New ideas emerged every day, and Bethany was ready to transform what was once just a dream into something even bigger. Success was now no longer a race against time. It was a continuous journey, where each step taken represented a new opportunity for growth and to make a difference in the world. Now, stop and think. How many opportunities have you passed up due to fear or doubt? How many times have you looked at the difficulties in your life and thought there was no way out? This young woman's story teaches us that the impossible is just a mental barrier, something that only exists if we allow it to paralyze us. She didn't have money, resources, or even a place to live, but she had something much more powerful: the determination to change her reality. And if she could do it, why couldn't you? What are you waiting for to start your own transformation? The path to success is never easy, but it is always possible for those who have the courage to act. Are you willing to take the first step? Is today the day you decide to change your story? Let this story be the push you needed to start taking action now. And if you want to continue learning and being inspired by stories like this, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. The next chapter of your success begins now, and you don't want to miss what comes next.